Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. It's Saturday and it's time for House Talk Pregame. I am your host, sports empowerment and mental health coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. I'm actually flying solo today. It's just going to be me and you today. Our viewing audience, our listening audience. Ronnie had to be out today. I thought for a few long and hard about whether or not I was going to have a guest co host today. And I said, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to do it. I am going to have some up close and personal conversation with our audience, just me and you. My hope is that you will join me and that you will continue to provide feedback and share in the reception of this information that we share with you week in and week out. As our loyal audience knows, our team here at HT Pregame, for us, it's all about family. For me, as your host, it's all about family. Anybody that knows anything about me knows that I live, breathe, and die family, almost to a fault sometimes. But it really is all about family, and it's about your family. It's about our family. It's about Black and Brown families all across this nation and all over the world. And week after week, we are having the hard conversations. And I put the disclaimer out there as a rule. I try to remember to do it every week that I come hard. I don't always come hard, but 99.9% of the time, I do come very hard. And the reason why I do that is because life is hard. Life is hard for many, many, many of us of Black and Brown hue all across the nation and all around the world. And let's face it, folks, for generations, for decades upon decades upon decades, since the foundation of the earth almost, when you're of Black and Brown hue, things tend to be a little bit different for you. Things tend to be a little harder for you at times, dependent upon the circumstances that you were born into and how you receive education and prepare for a brighter and more successful future. If you believe that that's possible, if you are led to know that that is possible, um, these topics are relevant, folks. They are so relevant. And just my personal, my professional opinion, we don't have these conversations nearly enough. We have plenty of them when all hell breaks loose and there's some sort of tragedy going on in the world. But I just believe in taking proactive measures. I believe that if we took a solution focused approach every single solitary day of our lives, that we might be able to do a better job at being instrumental in combating some of these problems that exist in our communities day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, century after century. And I'm not suggesting for a moment that things haven't improved because they have, but there's still a great deal of work for us to do. I'm also, as you all know by now, I'm very, very passionate about our HBCU families, about scholar and professional athletes and their families. Excuse me. And I'm also passionate about our Heritage Sports Radio Network family. I truly count it a blessing, an honor, and a privilege to be a part of this network. And my hope is that you would go to the App Store, download the app, and tune in to HSRN on a regular basis. We have a Sirius XM radio station as well. And we absolutely love that you join us each week to get powerful, albeit very raw, sports and mental health information that we believe is needed to make well informed athletic, but more importantly, life transforming decisions. We want you to remember that we are on HSRN right now at 11 a.m. Every Saturday, also at 10 p.m. on Saturdays. And we're also on HSRN at 6 p.m. on Sundays. So you have an option to catch the rebroadcast of our shows in case you miss us. live, but we want you to get this information. We have, uh, and I say we because even though Ronnie's not here, it's still we. I don't do this by myself. I need Ronnie's support. I need your support as our viewing and listening audience. And truth be told, folks, I could not do this show without him. His support, his dedication, his wholehearted commitment and passion for mental health, for sports, for family is just, it's remarkable. It is truly, truly, truly unprecedented. And I want to publicly thank him for hanging in there with me as we build from the ground up and taking HT Pregame to another dimension, and hopefully taking each of you and our families and the sports and mental health arena to a whole different dimension. So, what we have for you today is our topic for today is Black college athletes graduation rates. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am going to lay some groundwork. I'm going to lay some foundation for you. As many of you know, I am very, very passionate about research. And I believe that knowledge is power. I believe that our liberation in many, many ways comes from our willingness to educate ourselves and to free ourselves, if you will, from persistent ignorance. And that's why we take the approach that we do with this show week in and week out, because we believe that exactly what the Bible says, that people perish for lack of knowledge. And even if you don't have a spiritual or religious foundation, regardless, that's truth, right? What you don't know can hurt you. So we take it upon ourselves to provide you with a wealth of knowledge every single solitary week. And part of how we're able to do that more effectively is because of the research that we do. And then, of course, we offer our professional and our personal perspectives for Ronnie and I as mental health practitioners, but also being of Black and brown hue. As many of you know right now, you know, Ronnie is multiracial and or biracial. And you know, all of those things are variables that contribute to our lived experience and how we make sense of the world. So as I lay this foundation for you today and build up to hopefully giving you a better understanding of why athletes of color's graduation rates or disproportionate in many institutions across the nation compared to that of their white counterparts. Um, it's important to let you know how we got here, and I'm going to do just that. So we're going to be talking about um, the beginning of racial inequity in education. I'm going to share information with you about value and education across the the spectrum. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to find, but at every grade level is what I'm trying to get at. So we're going to take a look at that, and it's going to evolve. It's going to evolve for you over these next 90 minutes to give you some insight, not only as to the Captain Obvious statement of what's wrong, but to give you some solution focused strategies as to how you and I and we can be a part of these solutions and try to do a better job at making a difference in our homes and in our communities, in our school system, and in the athletic arena. We're going to talk about differentiated instruction and student engagement and motivation, racial inequity in Black athletes. And then I'm going to wrap it up for you today in talking about what all of that looks like within the context of the importance of having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. So I'm going to share all that information with you um, week after week. One of the things that Ronnie and I do is that we offer a mental health tip of the week. And for me, I I created this formula in my head of what it takes to create a what I call this trifecta union between behavioral mental health, um, education, and uh, really hospitality. And when I say hospitality within the context of humanity. And what does it look like to be humane to all people, whether they look different, act different, or have different lifestyle choices than you, or not? So, gonna flesh that out for you a little bit today. Um, my mental health tip is educate yourself. Educate yourself about how important it is to take care of yourself in order to do a better job of positively showing up, not just for yourself, because you need to be kind to the reflection in the mirror, but how you show up for other people. It is very hard to be in a healthy, positive, and productive relationship when the individual hasn't taken the time to do what they need for themselves emotionally, physically, spiritually, and truth be told, even financially. It is very important to take proper care of oneself. To thine own self be true. That's my tip. To thine own self be true, not in a grandiose way, not in a narcissistic way, not in a, oh, the sun rises and sets on my behind kind of way, but in a humane way that recognizes that if you don't take proper care of yourself, you're no good to anybody else. You're not. And I don't believe for a moment that anybody in their heart of hearts wants to be a burden to anyone else. You don't want to be that. So let's do a better job, folks. Let's do a deliberate and intentionally better job of taking care of ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, so that we are showing up each and every single day across all domains in every relationship that we have as the absolute best version of ourselves. We owe that to ourselves. We owe that to our children. We owe that to our mates, our siblings, our family. You owe it. You owe it. You have an obligation. And I'm going to be bold and say a moral obligation to take proper care of yourself so that you can be the absolute best that you can be for yourself and everybody and everything that you profess to love and care about so deeply. So I want to go ahead and get started. I think that it's important to note as I lay this foundation for you that Monday marks the 67th year anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education. And for those of you that might not be familiar with exactly what that is, I'm going to give you a bit of a history lesson. So this issue started long before it went to the justice system to try to get resolved. But this argument uh, went on from December 9th of 1952 to May 17th of 1954. And just to give it to you in technical context, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka was 347 US 483, was a landmark decision of the US Supreme Court in which the court ruled that US state laws establishing racial segregation in public schools are unconstitutional, even if the segregated schools are otherwise equal in quality. Now, I don't know where that is. I mean, I don't. I'm sure maybe. I'm gonna give I'm gonna give the educational system the benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna say, oh, maybe there's otherwise equal quality schools around the nation, and that the only inequity is race. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. I don't know that I'm convinced on that one, but okay. Um, I think it's important to start there because I have argued before, I have debated strongly, I've talked very calmly and very intuitively, and uh, so many other approaches to this discussion around education and racial inequity and how that was impacted by desegregation. I'm not going to sit here and suggest for a moment that segregation was appropriate. That would be ludicrous. I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is that oftentimes in life, we end up sacrificing certain things in order to get others. It's there may be something, a situation or circumstances in life where we get every single solitary thing that we want the way we want it, how we want it, and when we want it. It's not been my experience, but okay. Um, I think where education is concerned, that to a degree, desegregation hurt people of Black and Brown hue educationally in a lot of ways. Um, I think that desegregation hurt us beyond the educational realm. I think that looking back in retrospect, and certainly all of this took place or at least initiated long before I was born, but I think that there was room. There was room for improvement, and you know, giving credit where credit is due, people did the best they could for where they were at the time based on the resources that they had, and I am convinced that people believe that they were making the right decision, and certainly to a degree they did. I think that looking back in retrospect, there was just additional work that could have been done and should have been done within the context of education, though. And when we look at the deficits that exist, the achievement gaps that exist between Black and Brown students and white students, or even Hispanic or Asian or Pacific Islander students, I mean, the achievement gaps are overwhelming. Are they getting better? They absolutely are. They absolutely are. But they're getting better slow. And um, I'm going to make some charges today. I'm going to present some additional calls to action today that I hope will be heard. I'm going to try to do it in my soft inside voice rather than my strong alpha female passionate voice, because I know that turns some people off, and this information is very important, so I don't want to turn anybody off. But I think that we have to take a look at what desegregation did to our educational system and really look deeper to determine how we can revisit that. And I know that we're doing that day in and day out. I'm just suggesting that there's more room for growth there. And I want to illuminate the importance of that growth with parents. Don't know what you all thought I was going to say, but I'm starting at home. And the reason why I'm starting at home is because we as parents are our children's first teachers. We as caregivers are our children's first teachers, and having family members and friends and colleagues that work for programs such as Head Start or that are teaching in the public school system in pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 for those districts across the country that have it. What is so alarming and so tragic, in my opinion, is so very many children of color coming to school that haven't been taught. They haven't been taught how to spell their name. They haven't been taught some of the basics of reading. They haven't been taught their colors. They haven't been taught how to spell their name. They haven't been taught how to properly pronounce their own name. And the list goes on and on and on. That's a show in and of itself, just sharing the horror stories that I hear from colleagues, family, and friends that are in those settings. And just so you know, before somebody starts sending me hate mail and kicking my back in, I'm not saying that that's where it is, the way it is everywhere, because we know that's not the case. What I'm saying is, in those arenas, in those areas, in those geographic regions where that is the case, there is opportunity for parents and family members and caregivers to do better at preparing our children for school. Um, so oftentimes, and having been an educator, I mean, I see it. I would see it day in and day out that children weren't coming to school prepared. And then when you factored in No Child Left Behind, goodness gracious, kids were just getting pushed through school. And in so many cases, I mean, kids are graduating illiterate because they weren't taught. They were just shoved through school so that the numbers look good. And that's not okay. I just believe that, not I believe, I know. I know in my heart, just like you all know in your heart, that there is room for growth and improvement. People can do a better job. And I said I was going to use my inside channel voice. So, little Johnny, little little Sarah, little Buff Quita, little Hakeem and them, they can rap, they can do every dance you want them to do. They even cuss better than some grown folk I know, but they can't read, they can't write, they don't know their ABCs, but they can pop it and shake it and back it up and drop it and twirl it and spin it and tell you every inappropriate thing that they know because they've heard too much and seen too much adult content. But they can't read, they can't write, they can't count, they don't know their ABCs, they don't know their colors, and they're coming to school already behind the 8 ball concerning their learning. And that is not the fault of the educational system. That is a parenting problem. It is a systemic parenting problem that must be appropriately addressed. Parents so oftentimes aren't going to parent teachers conferences. They aren't going to PTA meetings. They aren't going to anything that appropriately supports the positive academic trajectory of their children. Oh, but they're at that T-ball game. They're at that midget football game. They're at that basketball game. Look at Hakeem run. He run. He gonna be the next, Emmett Smith. He gonna be the next Zeke Elliott. He's gonna be the next Jonathan Taylor. But he can't read. Can barely write his name. But he sure is athletically talented. There's something wrong with that picture. There's something very, very wrong with that picture, and we have to do better. Part of my dissertation research was on parents valuing education. And valuing education, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, doesn't mean that you have to go to college. What it means is that you respect, value, and appreciate that knowledge is power. Education equates liberation. Education equates freedom, whether it's financial education, relationship education, academic education, spiritual education, whatever the education is, it can serve to liberate you. So, why do we have so many Black and brown children who are being reared in homes, reared in communities where education is not appropriately valued? Because they're living in poverty? Okay. I grew up in an impoverished community. It wasn't nearly as impoverished as it is now, but in comparison, it was an impoverished community. But the value was placed on education in my home. And before I get hate mail, my mom had a high school education. She went to work after high school. My stepfather had a high school education and went to work in the Army National Guard after high school. My grandfather had an 8th grade education, and my grandmother had a 10th grade education. But education was valued in our home. C's, D's, and F's were not permitted. And oh, by the way, before I get hate mail, I had a tutor. I had to have a tutor for math. I tell people I know how to make money, spend money, save money, invest money, and count money. But when it came, and I can break a recipe down and tell you how much food you need to feed 1,000 people. But all of the other stuff, I had to have a tutor. I'm gonna say publicly, thank goodness for Alan Russell Garlick, Andre's father, because he tutored me through high school all the way through undergrad. Because otherwise, I'd have had a problem. Tutors are your friend. How come we're not getting them more for our children? How come we're not getting them more for ourselves? How come we aren't taking the appropriate measures that we need to take to educate ourselves so that we can better educate our children? How come we place more value in so many instances on sports than we do on education? It seems to me that the priorities are a little off. I think that we need to do a better job of evaluating the life lessons that we've learned individually, collectively, and collaboratively as a people. And we need to deliberately and intentionally increase our commitment to breaking the generational curse of every form of illiteracy that exists in our communities. Each one, reach one. If you have family members that you know don't value education to the degree that you do, perhaps as a formally educated family member, start holding your people accountable. Start having the hard conversations about why Lil Hakeem can rap, but he can't read. Start having those hard conversations. Start having the hard conversations about why little Alizé can twerk or whatever the newest. See, I don't even know what the newest dances are because I'm in a book all the time. Why she can do whatever the newest dance is, but she can't spell her name. Start thinking about doing better and then doing it on purpose. We have the power. Yes, there is racial injustice, there is social injustice, there is inequality all over this nation and all over the world. But those circumstances do not define who we are as a people. They never have. They never have. Blood, sweat, and tears were shed. Lives were lost so that we could be educated and so that we could vote. Fighting for justice and equality in sports came much later. People died so that we could be appropriately educated and so that we could vote. So why do so many of us not take that seriously? Why do so many of us make light of that? Why? Why do you go to bed at night disregarding the sacrifices that were made for you to have the freedoms and the luxuries that you have in this unjust and unequal society that we live in? Knowledge is power, not rhetoric, not lip service. Sustainable, positive, productive action. And that action must start in our homes. Yesterday, one of the other issues that we face is that there is disproportionate representation of Black and Brown teachers in the educational system. And don't get it twisted before you go sending me hate mail. I'm not suggesting that a white teacher or an Asian teacher or any other teacher can't teach Black and Brown children or Black and Brown teenagers or Black and Brown adults. That's not what I'm saying. And as I transition to this segment, I want to officially and publicly give shout outs to all of my teachers, and some of them, the most that impacted me the greatest. I'm going to share their names with you because I believe in giving honor where honor is due. And I want to note one of the first things that I noted is from kindergarten through 12th grade, there were six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 Black teachers in the educational system that I was in K through 12, which was the Quinton Township Elementary School District in Quinton, New Jersey, and the Salem City School District in Salem, New Jersey. When I was enrolled in elementary school, the Black teachers were Mrs. June Moore, Mrs. Lanier Graves, Mrs. Frances Simpson Jackson. That was it. It was those 3 teachers at Quinton Township Elementary School. when I was there from kindergarten through 8th grade. But they had such a tremendous positive impact on our lives. When I was in high school, we had Mr. Henderson, who was our science teacher, Mr. Pitts, who was my uncle, who was a history teacher, and Mrs. Holland, who was a business ed teacher. That was it. If there were any others, I am drawing a complete blank on them and didn't have them. That was it. Those were our Black teachers when I was in K through 12. But I will tell you this, each of them did an extraordinary job of not only educating us, but educating all. What was so powerful about their teaching style was that for the students of color, they made sure that we understood that oftentimes throughout the course of our lives, that the odds were going to be against us because of the color of our skin. That's why I think it's so important for there to be more teachers of color, because a white teacher, an Asian teacher, a Hispanic teacher, whatever ethnicity, can be an extraordinary teacher. But there's something to be said about at least some aspect of your education coming from someone that looks like you and that can culturally relate to the challenges that you are going to face as a person of color in this society. That's where the value is. So for those of you that would throw a fit and even try to suggest that I'm saying that if, you know, that any other teacher can't teach Black kids, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But culturally, there are cultural things that we face as people of color that it's not your lived experience. It's not. It doesn't mean that you agree with the injustice and the inequality that we experience, but you will never know what it's like to be Black. Ever. Ever. You'll never know. You know why? Because you're not Black. And there's value that can be added culturally to these children's learning trajectories when there are teachers, even if it's just a subject or two, but when there are teachers that look like them and can relate to what it is to be Black in this country, in and outside of the learning environment. Now, because I believe in giving honor where honor is due, I also want to shout out the white teachers that I had that loved me, and I mean that. There is absolutely, positively no doubt in my mind whatsoever that these teachers that I'm about to shout out, that they love me. They love me. They love me so much, they never settled for mediocrity from me. Never. They love me so much, they held me consistently to a standard of academic excellence. Always. Mr. John Reeder. I had him in 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 8th grade at Quinton Township Elementary School. I think Mr. Reeder was following me. But to this day, I love him to pieces because he never, ever settled for anything other than my absolute best academically. Mr. Burton Hopkins. I love you, man. He was my Latin teacher at Salem High School. He's the one that taught me that some people have the IQ of Lynn. Not really. That's just how they act. Mr. James Morning, God bless him and rest his soul. He's no longer with us. He was my science teacher at Quinton Township Elementary School. Mr. Clark was my 8th grade teacher at Quinton Township Elementary School. Mr. Gower was my 4th grade teacher at Quinton Township Elementary School. And Mr. Warfel was my 7th grade math teacher at Quinton Township Elementary School. Every single solitary one of these individuals always required academic greatness and excellence from me. Behavioral excellence too, because I stayed getting in trouble. But they never settled. They never settled for less than my best. And here's the connection for you folks. They were able to be as hard on me as they were academically in requiring academic greatness and excellence from me, as well as my high school teachers, because my mom, my stepdad, and my grandparents gave them permission to do so. Why? Because education was wholeheartedly valued in our home. So Paulette and George and Dorothy and Lester wasn't coming up to the school showing their behind. They let them know, tighten her up if you need to, and be on that phone. And then when she gets home, I'm gonna tighten her up again. My parents and my grandparents did not enable me academically. My grandfather told me that my brain was going to be my ticket out of Salem. And I believed him. So I didn't require a whole bunch of yoking up academically. But there were times that I needed to get, verbally snatched up in the collar because I was smelling myself and puberty and acting like a nut. But they cared enough about me to hold me to a standard of excellence every single solitary day. And every single solitary last one of those teachers, Mrs. Moore, Mrs. Graver, Mrs. Simpson, Mr. Henderson, Uncle Tony, Mr. Pitts, Mrs. Holland, Mr. Reeder, Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Morning, Mr. Clark, Mr. Gower, Mr. Warfel. My mom and dad, my grandmom and grandpop, and everybody else in my family that put so much emphasis on the importance of education. They're all the reason why I'm Dr. Lauren Denise Pitts today. Every single last one of them. Every single solitary last one of them had a vested interest in me being where I am today. You might be thinking, Dr. Pitts, I thought we were talking about Black college athletes and the graduation rates. We are. I told you I was laying the foundation. You connecting the dots yet? You putting the puzzle pieces together yet? It's actually real clear but maybe that's just me. I think I'm presenting you the information that is clarifying for you the big picture. Problems don't just happen like that. We build up to them. Low graduation rates among Black college athletes didn't just start when they got to college. It started when they started kindergarten. It started before they started kindergarten. It started in the home. It started in the home, and it snowballs in K through 12. It snowballs through undergrad. It snowballs all the way through that 6th year that we see some athletes are able to complete their undergraduate degree within 6 years, and some take longer than that, and some don't finish at all. But it starts at home. It does. And you can disagree with me. That's fine. I'm just sharing with you my personal and professional opinion about where it starts and what the problem is. The other contributing factor, I believe, is a lack of differentiated instruction in our school systems. Dr. Pitts, what the heck is differentiated instruction? I'm so glad you asked. Differentiated instruction is a mode of teaching that accounts for students' individual needs and learning styles before designing a lesson plan. Differentiated instruction refers to instructors providing their diverse classes with a range of ways to understand the content in the classroom. Differentiated instruction in the classroom is an important skill for teachers to give pupils what? The best chance at learning, regardless of their abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Student engagement is key to fostering motivation and confidence in the classroom. And I know, I hear it all the time. I heard it all the years that I was in the school teaching. We don't have enough time. We're teaching to the test. We have all these things. But what I do say is there are teachers all over the country who aren't in affluent school districts that have found a way to make differentiated instruction a priority, a classroom norm, and they're making all the difference in the world. National education statistics suggest that 79.3% of public school teachers are white and 9.3% are Hispanic. In charter schools, 10.4% of teachers are Black, 15.6% are Hispanic, and Black men only make up 2% of the country's teaching force. But their presence is definitely needed in the classroom. So what does that mean? What that means is that there's less than 20% of teachers in the country are minorities, compared with more than half of the students. Teacher diversity is a huge problem. And there's racial differences that go into that because of graduation rates. And so many people of color are not going into the education system. Dr. Pitts, what does this have to do with differentiated instruction? Everything. Because remember, I talked about the cultural piece. There's a cultural component to differentiated instruction that takes into consideration the strengths and weaknesses and the student's abilities. And there are some strengths and weaknesses and abilities that are impacted by culture. And who better to address some of those issues than educators that look like the Black and brown students? One of the other issues with the disparity of Black and brown teachers is hiring bias, certification tests that teachers of color aren't necessarily passing at the same rate that their white counterparts are, a racial gap in bachelor's degree attainment, and lower retention rates among teachers of color. All of these things are playing a part in how students are being educated and why the achievement gaps persist and why, in part, Black college athletes' graduation rates are lower. It's systemic. You hear me use that term quite a bit. It's systemic. It's not just an educational problem, is what I'm saying. It's a cultural problem. It's a societal problem. It's an NCAA problem. Um, there are a lot of variables that go into that, but each of them can be appropriately addressed. It just has to be done. There has to be a willingness to do it. And in order for that to happen, folk have to recognize it. You can't conquer what you're unwilling to acknowledge. And yes, there is an acknowledgement. There absolutely positively is an acknowledgement. And I confess I have not read every single solitary research study that's been done on this topic. But I will tell you that the ones that I have read aren't speaking to this disparity from a systemic, multi generational perspective. And I think that that's something that we have to be honest with ourselves about is that the graduation rates are the residual effects of a failed educational system that we've been dealing with for decades. So I'm not surprised that the graduation rates are down. What I find that's more disheartening is that when you look at the fact that, yes, you do have scholar athletes out there that genuinely and sincerely just play the sport because they love the sport and they have no aspirations to go pro. As a matter of fact, they don't even think that they can go pro. They just love the game. But then you have another large percentage of students who have dollar signs and stars in their eyes and see going to the league is a way out of poverty and lack and need and want. It's a way to a better quality of life for themselves and their families. But the reality of it is that what, roughly 2%? I mean, it's dismal in comparison that the 98% of scholar athletes are not going to a professional league. So what are those other 98% doing with the education? Are they dropping out? Are they graduating now? Oh my gosh, there's plenty that graduate, but they're graduating at a lower percentage rate than their counterparts. And that's the problem. Why is the emphasis not placed on education? And I'm not suggesting, and we've said this on previous shows, I'm not suggesting that everybody has to go to college. College is not for everybody. But what I am suggesting is that for those that do go to college, the value that is placed upon completing their education with excellence should, in my opinion, be just considered just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the athletic performance. And the reality of it is that that just hasn't been the case. So we have to take a look at that. Why? And I don't have answers. I mean, I have some suggestions, but I think that I think that it starts with a mindset, which takes me back to home, right? And what I want to talk to you about is the impact of having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. Dr. Fitz, what are you talking about? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. When you have a fixed mindset, and think about it, and I'm going to give you some tips so that you can figure out, whether that's you or not. So when we have a fixed mindset, we find ourselves in this position where intelligence is static, and we buy into this notion that if we're smart, then that's going to lead to um, the achievement of our desires. And because we look smart, we have uh, the tendency to think that that's all it takes. When in actuality, it's not just enough to be smart. There's plenty of smart people out there that haven't done anything. You've heard the term, oh, such and such is really smart, but they haven't lived up to their full potential. Or such and such is really smart, but they haven't done this, or they haven't done that, or they haven't done a third. Or such and such is really smart if they would just use the level of intelligence that they had and do something positive or productive with their life. But we know that that's not always the case. So when you have a fixed mindset, you can be smart as all outdoors, but you're going to avoid challenges. You're going to take the easy way out of stuff. You're not going to step outside of your comfort zone. You give up really easy. The you're the stay in your comfort zone person. You're that person that I'm not doing that. Something may happen. Okay. Stay in your little bubble. Stay in your little comfort zone. That's fine. You have a fixed mindset. You have a fixed mindset that is going to trickle over to your kids, and they're going to have a fixed mindset, and it's going to carry on and carry on and carry on and carry on until somebody makes the decision to change to a growth mindset. What is a growth mindset? A growth mindset suggests that you see everything in life as a learning opportunity. You believe that you have a right to learn. You see every situation and circumstance that happens in your life as a teachable moment. You embrace challenges. You um, see every setback, everything that presents itself as an obstacle or a barrier. You see it as an opportunity to learn. Or the way that I like to say it, turning the adversities of my life into stepping stones for others. Having a growth mindset means that you don't curl up in a ball and allow life to just have its way with you. Having a growth mindset, as our forever First Lady said in a graduation speech, she said, as soon enough I realized I had everything I needed to handle college. I know how to work hard. So, do you know I knew how to battle through adversity? So, I knew how to ask for help when I needed it. What I learned was that the same qualities that got me through high school would be the same qualities that would get me through Princeton and later through Harvard Law School. So I want all of you to understand that those moments when you're feeling anxious or insecure, those moments when you're not sure you can reach the next level, those are the moments when you shape yourself into who you want to be. All right? That's actually proven by science and research that shows that when you think hard about something or you struggle to solve a problem, whether it's math or science or a problem in life, your brain is actually growing. You're actually becoming smarter because of that struggle. So embrace it. Relish those moments. Those are the moments when you've got to tell yourself to reach higher. And that's what I say to you. I wholeheartedly agree with what Michelle Obama said. Life is always going to happen to each of us. And you've probably heard me say this 100 times by now. It's not what happens to you in this life that dictates your success or failure. It is your response to it. And you have the ability to conquer. Nobody said that it would be easy. Nobody said that you wouldn't cry, that you wouldn't want to quit. But don't. When you flee from facing a challenge head on, you're not quitting on the challenge. You're quitting on yourself. And every single solitary time you make the decision to quit, it gets easier and easier and easier for you to do so. You have got to stay the course. You have to make it up in your mind that come hell or high water, blood, sweat, and tears, you're going to win this race and not give up on yourself. You owe it to yourself to win. And I don't care how many people have told you that you were a loser. You owe it to yourself to win. So what are you going to do about it? Oh my God, Dr. Pierce, I can't. You just don't know, and this, that, and that. Okay. I'm a mental health practitioner. I deal with people with anxiety disorder and all types of fears and phobias and all types of stuff going on every day of their life. And I say the same thing to them. Why are you allowing the circumstances of your life to dictate your success or failure? Why? I'm no different than you. The only difference between me and you are the decisions that we've made. I think I'm too stubborn to quit. It's so contrary to who I am in my core. I'm like, I think in reverse. Like if you tell me that I can't, I'm gonna show you that I can, just because that's just my nature. I don't care if everybody in your life has beat you down to verbal and emotional dust. Don't you know the best revenge is to win? Why are you curling up in a ball? Why are you giving up on yourself? Because somebody told you that you would never be nothing because your daddy was nothing? That you would never be nothing because you're just like your sorry behind mama? Why are you quitting on yourself because you were adopted? Why are you quitting on yourself because you were raped? Why are you quitting on yourself because you were molested? Why are you quitting on yourself because you were born in poverty and poverty is all you've known your whole life? So, what are you going to do about it? Those circumstances can only define you if you allow them to. Stop allowing life to bend you over and have its way with you. You have more power and control over the outcomes of your life than you realize. There are people in prison who are more free than you are because they realize that the formula is a mindset. I want to give you some signs to let you know definitively if you have a fixed mindset. When you come across success, you consider it to be an affirmation of intelligence that is inherent. You give up easily. You avoid failure at all costs while striving for success. You're a control freak. You're so determined to prove that you got it going on, you try to control everything. You can't control nothing but yourself. I don't know why you keep trying. Stop it. Running yourself crazy. You view failure as an indication of how unintelligent you are, not as an opportunity for growth. Ooh, I know a bunch of people, personally and professionally, that is their mantra. They wear that one like a badge of honor. I'm gonna read it again. You view failure as an indication of how unintelligent you are, not as an opportunity for growth. Stop playing. Cut it out. You strongly resist any sort of challenge. You a shrinking violet. You don't fight for nothing. And I don't mean this, I don't mean hands-on physical fight. I mean, you can do that if you want to, but it's not my recommendation. But I'm talking about you just don't stand up for anything. You don't stand up for yourself. You just don't. Don't want to be challenged. Don't want to do anything beyond your comfort zone. Don't want to strive for more and different and better. And then you lie and say that you're okay with your life the way it is. Then why are you playing the Powerball? Why are you trying to hit the Mega Million jackpot at the casino? Or whatever the heck that is. Because life is the way you want it to be. Be the change you wish to see in others. You often ignore useful negative feedback. We're going to call that constructive criticism. The last thing on earth you want to hear is anything I have to say, or anybody else that's going to tell you the truth. So you avoid truth tellers like the plague. You act like serum is, like you're allergic. Oh man, she thinks she's better than me. No, it's not that. I just want more for you than what you want for yourself. So now you're mad at me. Don't be mad at me. Be mad at yourself. You're the one making a choice to live in mediocrity. You don't have to. It wasn't what you were purposed to do. It's what you chose to do. You chose to be a victim of your circumstances. Why? Nope, not going to give you that out. You view the success of others as a threat. Ooh. You view the success of others as a threat instead of as a source of inspiration or lessons to be learned. You know what layman's terms for that one is? Hater. Hater, 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 hater. You're a hater, hater, hater. You're a hater. Hater, hater, hater. You know why? Because when successful people walk in the room, when people that you perceive have it going on, when people that you perceive are doing better than you, the moment they walk into the room, they illuminate everything that you are not. And you hate that with a passion. When in actuality, you should be mad at yourself, not the person. Because you have the power to change, but you don't, because you have a fixed mindset. So, Dr. Pitts, how do I get a growth mindset? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. I want you to understand that you can always learn, improve, and get better at anything you set your mind to. If you can think yourself into and out of a good mood, if you can think yourself into and out of an argument, if you can think yourself into and out of a violent rage, why can't you think yourself into a positive mindset that's going to help you to grow and improve the quality of your life? Be open to new ideas and pursue change on purpose. Don't stay fixed in the safety of your comfort zone. Some of the greatest growth, if not all of the greatest growth that you will ever experience, is outside of your comfort zone. You got to come out. You have to come out of where you are. I had one of my cousins ask me last week, she said, you have just always, like, you'll go and do anything. Like, you're just not afraid. I refuse to live in fear. I'm not suggesting that things don't make me uncomfortable. I'm not suggesting that things haven't made me nervous. What I'm suggesting is I'm not willing to be stuck there. I'm not willing to miss golden opportunities and God's miracles and blessings that have my name on them because I'm afraid of what might happen. Everything you do is a 50-50 chance. Okay. And oh, by the way, things not going the way you planned is not necessarily end of the world unless it kills you. And I mean, you're going to die anyway. I mean, I don't mean to seem harsh or insensitive, but we all leaving here. I would rather leave here knowing that I gave life my all than leave here full of potential that I never reached. Stop being a scaredy cat. Stop being afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. Oh my goodness. I was talking to my mom yesterday and she said my uncle asked her, why did you let her move to Texas? She said, Douglas, you do know she's 53 years old, right? Are you kidding me? Guess what, folks? Newsflash. Here's a big one for you. You can have financial problems in any geographic area in the country. And guess what? You don't have to be near family to borrow money from them. There's Cash App, there's Venmo, there's PayPal. You can give them your bank account number and have them go put. You don't got to be near them. You have Uber and Lyft, so they don't have to give you a ride. You can be broke, busted, disgusted, hungry, you can be all of those things any place in the world you want to be. You don't have to do that in the comfort zone of wherever you are. You don't. That's what I told folks when I was living in Florida. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you were moving all the way to Florida. I can't believe you stayed in Salem for all these years with your miserable behind. I'm out of here. See ya. Because the same problems that I had in Florida, I had them in New Jersey. I had them in DC. I had them in Rhode Island. I had them in Barbados. I had them in Maryland. I had them in Delaware. I had them. Life happens to you wherever you are. There's not a single solitary challenge that I faced in life that was specific to New Jersey. Not one. Not a single solitary one. Any problem that I ever had in Salem, New Jersey, somehow, some way, I experienced something comparable wherever I was. My money was funny in Jersey. There were times that my money was funny and my change was strange in Florida. Life is going to happen. Why are you scared? What you scared of? What you think might happen? You might think you might get knocked in the head at the ATM. Go to one that you don't have to get out the car. In another state. You can get robbed. You can get, all the bad stuff that can happen to you in your hometown can happen to you anywhere in the country. You can get sick. You can go on vacation and get sick. What are you afraid of? Why are you spending your life living in fear? Be courageous enough to experiment and take chances. Wise chances. Don't be out here doing nothing crazy. Start small, though, and build on your success. Don't be discouraged by what you perceive as failure. Pick yourself up and try again. Remember that song by Aaliyah? I used to love that song. Pick yourself up and try again. When you operate under a growth mindset, folks, you may not ever actually see yourself as failing. You'll see yourself as learning instead. That's where I am today. That's where I am every single solitary week that I bring you this show. Is everything in my life exactly the way I want it to be? No. So, progress, forward movement, on purpose, one day at a time. Every single solitary day of your life is a new day filled with infinite possibilities. You can let go of your past successes and your past perceived failures so that you can grow and succeed into the future that was purposed and predestined for you. You can do it. It's not just enough to want to, you have to actually do it. So, what are you waiting for? Why are you being a chicken heart? Why are you being a chicken heart? I want to, as I'm closing out in these next 14 minutes, I'm continuing to connect the dots for you on why I believe that Black college athletes' graduation rates are low. You see the connection yet? Are you getting it? Is this any of this making sense to you? I want to challenge you today to give assurance to your child. I want you to challenge the educators educating your child to give assurance to your child. Don't overlook your child just because they might be a little quiet. Don't make them feel bad about being quiet. Don't beat them up for not being like you. Teach them the importance of being well rounded and balanced. That there are times to be quiet, but there's also times to speak. And it is imperative for us to teach our children how to speak up for themselves appropriately. Emphasis on appropriate. There is a right way to communicate, and there is a wrong way to communicate. And demanding respect has never been a way to get it. Respect is earned. It's earned. Parents, I want to encourage you to make it your business to do a better job at engaging your underachieving child, even if you were a consummate underachiever. I want you to engage your underachieving child and be deliberate and intentional in finding out what resources are available that can help you to improve the interest of your child in education and increase the value of education in your home on purpose. I'm asking you today to want more for your children than you've ever had for yourself. I'm asking you today to stop being afraid of what being educated means. I'm asking you today to stop feeling like education somehow makes you white. How many times have you heard that? Oh, she acts white. She talks white. What? No, it's called education. Stop that. Stop putting that narrative in the mind of your children. And you need to have that narrative extracted from your own mind. I want you to hold your educational system accountable for not focusing on discipline, 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 particularly punitive discipline with children of color. I want you to hold your educators responsible for cooperative learning that will engage your children in group activities where the kids have a common goal for learning. I want you to be deliberate and intentional in finding out what additional resources are available, whether they be online, in a neighboring school district, in your own school district, that can help you to motivate your child to learn at a higher level. For those of you that have children that haven't started school yet, I want you to be deliberate and intentional in presenting opportunities for your child to have high levels of ability and readiness for school, so that when they get in the school, when they enter the classroom, the teachers are in awe about how well prepared your child and your children are for the learning environment. Parents, I want you to be deliberate and intentional in priming your children for learning and stimulating their academic ability. I want you to read with your children. I want you to read to your children, even if it's only for 15 minutes a day. If you can make time to take this child to football practice and basketball practice and baseball practice and track practice, and you can make time to throw this child a $700 birthday party for his 5th birthday, you can make time to read to your child and with your child. Parents, I want you to build a rapport with your children around the value and power and importance of getting a good education. I want you to want more for your children than you had. I want you to be deliberate and intentional in getting your child ready for a bright, successful future, regardless of whether or not they go to college. Parents, I'm asking you to be deliberate and intentional in developing and sustaining a growth mindset so that you are imparting that wisdom and that knowledge and that power into your children, so that if the decision is made for them to go to college, that they are instrumental in contributing to the increase of Black college athletes' graduation rates and the overall graduation rates of Black and Brown students, period. Parents of scholar athletes, I want you to recognize that athletic ability is a gift. It is a beautiful, beautiful gift to have. But what else? What steps have you put in place to ensure that if your child is among the 98% not going to the league, that they are prepared for a brighter and more successful future? Black college athletes' graduation rates, in my personal and professional opinion, are disparaging because the foundational issue of the disparity starts at home. It starts at home. I know that that is a bold statement to make. And certainly, I believe that the NCAA and the Power Five schools and um, so many other things are contributing to the disparity. But why are we placing the onus for the academic success of our children on someone else? Why? Just because the educational system is failing doesn't mean that we have to. We are living in a time in history where we have more resources and far greater access to those resources, many of which are free, by the way, than we have ever had in the history of the nation. So why are our children academically still slipping through the cracks? We have to do more. We have to do more, and we have the ability to face the graduation rates of Black college athletes head on and be instrumental in positively impacting their improvement. It starts with us. It starts in our homes. It starts in our communities. It starts off of the football field, outside of the baseball diamond, off of the basketball court, outside of the pool, off of the soccer field, hockey field, track and field. It starts in the home. Education across every possible domain, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, Knowledge is power. It is time to better educate ourselves so that we can better educate our children who are destined to be scholar athletes and who can graduate from college on time and go on to do extraordinary things. For those that are not scholar athletes, or for those who are scholar athletes but opt not to go to college, knowledge is power. Whether it's in the workforce or wherever, the choice is yours. This is your formal call to action. I am your host, sports mental health empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. This is House Talk Pregame. Ronnie, and to my guest co-host, Ted Wright, will be with you next Saturday. I will not because I'm getting married, but I will see you all back on May the 29th. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.